Hello, everybody. Thanks for listening again. It's kind of something really important I wanted to talk about today, and it sort of stems from, an incident, kind of a minor incident, really, but it can have big ramifications on everybody's life, really. From the recent trip to Thailand, they had, like a couple of nights into I think it was my last. The last full night we had, we had one night left, but we were leaving really early, 4 a.m, so we didn't class that as a full night. So it was our last full night, really. And there was a guy that we got talking to from another part of England in this little bar in the back street somewhere in Thailand. And we had something in common in that the rugby team that I support, a player of ours, he used to be in a relationship with this player's mum. And he just found this coincidence happening quite amazing, more than I did. I was like, oh, it's kind of interesting. And we had a chat and we were talking about the player in the team, and he was just going on and on. And after about 10 minutes or so, I was bored of the conversation because we were just treading old ground, and his enthusiasm was way greater than mine. I didn't want to spend all night talking to him. And then he was with his wife, who seemed a bit quiet and a bit subdued, but quite, reasonably pleasant to talk to. And we were with a group of other people, and he kind of followed us. There were a couple in their 50s. He kind of latched on to us. And then for another 30 minutes or so, I tried steering the conversation somewhere else. And I succeeded a couple of times, but he'd then go back to this conversation about this player, which I wasn't interested in. So then I kept steering the conversation away and didn't give him opportunity to carry on. And then I don't remember entirely the full extent of details of the conversation, but I definitely remember, because I was on holiday, I'd had a few drinks. He kept telling me and going on and on and on about various people that he knows from back home and what he did when he was younger. And he's like, my mate Dave, he's a great guy. I'm telling you, Andy, he's absolutely great. I'm like, it was getting to the point where he was telling me stories about his past for whatever reason, and it was getting to the point where I was not enjoying myself. It was thoroughly unenjoyable. I wasn't having a nice time, and he was draining my energy. He was an energy vampire, and that's what I want to talk about. And you hear a lot of people throwing this around, and it's kind of one of these new age spiritual things. It's like, oh, don't let that energy vampire near me. I don't think some people fully understand what that means, and it can mean a lot of things. But with that guy, just as an example, you don't want to offend people. When you're in that situation, it's a delicate situation. You don't want to offend people, but you also need to stand up for yourself. I certainly was not going to let that guy ruin my entire night. He'd already ruined enough of it, because he was just going on and on and on at me. It must have been 30 minutes or so. I made an excuse. I said, all right, I'm nipping to the lavatory. And then when I came back, I sat somewhere else at the table. And I saw him looking over as if to say, what's he doing? But that's not my concern. He, at that moment in time, you will always find somebody like that. There will always be someone in that type of a person in any social environment, in any bar, in any workplace. There will always be someone like that. I know a lot of them, and you need to avoid them people at all costs. Well, when I say all costs, without violence, So eventually, I kind of managed to get rid of him. And then the next night, which was final night, but obviously not a full night, we saw him in a bar going back to the bar that we'd been the previous night, and we purposely avoided him. And he was sat, and then he came to the bar we were at, and he was sat at the bottom and waved, and me and my friend just weren't interested. And we got a few glances over us, and they were probably thinking we were rude, especially him. And that'll be his train of thought now, that, he ended up being rude, that guy. Look at him, he's not even talking to us now. But that's not my concern. I can't be held responsible for how he feels, and I know that he's not the type of person I want to deal with. So it's like a delicate situation. When you come across people like that, you have to protect yourself, because it's kind of an attack. From one perspective, let's not go over the board, it is kind of an attack on you. What that person wants to do is use you for their own purposes. Now, I'm using this guy as an example. He didn't mean me any harm. He doesn't know what he's doing, in effect. He's basically that type of person. Their inadequacies in their personality and their holes, their lack of wisdom is being directed in a way that he feels better telling other people about his life. It boosts his ego, is probably the best way of putting it. So he's not fully aware what he's doing. He doesn't really understand it. But yet, you are not responsible. We're not. Nobody else is responsible for how somebody else feels. At the end of the day, it's your responsibility for your own state of consciousness. I personally, my way is always be kind to other people and be true to yourself. That's all you can be. You're not responsible for somebody else's state of consciousness. If someone's lonely, you can be kind. But if someone wants to use you for that type of purposes, then you need to get them out of your life. There are people that, close, friends of mine that are like that I just have to avoid. And like I said, it is a form of attack. That person wants to use you to make themselves feel better and has no consideration for how you feel. That guy knew we'd only had a couple of nights left, but he, for some reason, he didn't stop to think that it's kind of staggering, really, if you think about it, that he thought that someone like me would be interested in listening to his personal tales from back home. And it was really boring stuff as well. It was pointless tales about his friends. Why would someone want to hear boring stories about someone they've never met? It's totally like, you could almost, as I'm talking now, my ego's coming to the surface and taking it a little bit personally, thinking, how dare he think I want to listen to that? But if I just put my ego aside, that person is unwise. He's got no compassion for another person in social situations. He doesn't come across as a bad person at all, but he's not wise and he uses other people. And I saw the look on his wife's face as if to say, here we go again. So I think that was a common trait. Looking deeper, as I always do, seemed a quite unhappy person. I think I know why that is, but there's no point going into that in this video. But it is like an attack, isn't it? That person wants to use you for their own personal gain without any compassion for how you were feeling. He didn't have any compassion for how I was feeling. He didn't care that I could have a better time having a laugh. There was a few girls there that I've met, and there was some locals that we got very friendly with. But he thought I wanted to hear his boring stories all night. So it ended up getting to the point where he's probably gone away thinking that me and my friend are rude. Oh, they ended up being a right couple of tosses, and it's like, well, so be it. What other people think of you is none of your business. Your state of consciousness is something that you have to take responsibility for. That person needs to learn his own lessons, and people like him. So you have to be so careful about who you give your time to. And it isn't about being mean. It's not about dismissing people. You have to be wise to who you spend your time with. Bars and public, pubs we call them in England. It's a great example. I don't drink. I go out probably once a week now, but I used to be, like, a few years ago, when I was going through a bit of a bad time, I was drinking quite a lot, like 4 or 5 times a week. So I went out to the local bar, and it's a great learning tool for social situations. People use drink, obviously, as an escapism. Everybody knows that, but the pub is a perfect environment for energy vampires. You're drinking, and generally when people drink, they talk nonsense. And there's a guy in there who I do actually like, suppose I consider a friend. I go watching sports team with him. I know some of his family. However, and I enjoy talking to him about our sports team because he's quite, he comes at it from the same angle as me. But what he also does is, and you have to be, that's why I don't spend any time with him anymore. He will always steer the conversation to his day at work and tell you intricate details of stories. Like, for instance, I don't know what he actually does, and he's been telling me about it for 6 years. That's how boring it is. He has some kind of managerial construction company, so he'll tell me a story about what happened at work, a board meeting, for instance, and he'll go into intricate detail, and then he'll go, well, he said, and I said, and he said, and I said, that's not acceptable, and all that, and he'll go on, and I said, it's out of order, Andy. That's what I said. I'm like, well, there's no need to go into that much detail. He's just venting. What that person is doing is getting he's getting things off his chest and using whoever's there. It's either, I don't take it personally because he does it to everybody. Whoever is there will get it, and his own family doesn't want to wear it. So what he will do, he goes to the pub after work, he has a few drinks, and he will tell some poor sod somewhere intricate details of the stories of what he's been through that day to get it off his chest, to boost his ego because it makes him feel important, to get a bit of anger out, out of his system. And you generally, you need, it's good not to keep things bottled up. And I don't mind the odd person telling me something interesting that's happened, or a close friend, somebody who I consider a close friend who I care for deeply. I don't care for him deeply. It's just the way it is, because that particular person is quite a selfish person in my opinion. And I will be always respectful and kind to those people, but I'm not interested in being around those type of people too much. So yeah, he's quite selfish, and that is something that you've got to be very wary of. You've got to detect those type of people. Detect them. So what is it that you've got to sort of realise is that there will always be people like that, and seek them out, observe them, and sort of move yourself away when you can without being rude, and realise that the only way you're going to get out of it is probably them thinking that you're kind of rude, But like I said, he will sometimes it's the bar staff that get it, but that's their job. But yeah, it's like it is like an attack, because all that person wants to do, all they're thinking about is being selfish. They are thinking, no matter what you're going through, how you feel, what is in that other person's best interest, at that moment they do not give a shit. All they want to do is burden your problems with them. and for them and for you to burden their problems with you, and then they want to hear back from you what they want to hear. That's what those people want, to reaffirm their mental position, which is a very unwise way of dealing with situations like that. It is always good to talk about things that are bothering you. Don't keep things bottled up. However, you need family members and close friends for things like that. People who care. If you have to offload problems like that to people who don't care, you've got big problems in life that you need to resolve, and there's only you that can resolve those. Nobody else. Yeah, so I mean, it works on a lot of levels. Like, there's different degrees of it. It happens. It may even happen with family members, people that you do care about. And if they're doing that constantly, they're not doing themselves any favours either, because they're not learning any deep lessons that they need to. How to deal with your problems and things like that. It's up to you to decide who deserves your time and who doesn't. But I just thought I'd throw that one out there. The example on holiday is a good one, because if I'd have allowed that person, he would have spent 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, maybe even until it went light in the morning, telling me boring stories about his life that I don't care about. And it's not rude to remove yourself from those situations. It's not unkind in the slightest. That's what you've got to remember. Because you do have to be, in my opinion, you've got to be respectful and kind. Always be kind to people. Always be respectful. But you come first. Your state of consciousness comes first. If someone wants to pollute your being with their shite or nonsense, sorry for being, but harsh, subjects call for harsh language, then that's their problem. You're not responsible. Get them out of your life, and do not let them pollute your. There will be enough challenges in life without dealing with people like that. It is not up to you to sort those kind of people out. And it can be difficult. It's not an easy situation. I've upset a few people in the past, and I will continue to do so. Because there's one thing I really, and it's only happened since I've started on what you may call the spiritual path, if you will. How my tolerance for small talk is virtually nil now. I don't mind. Don't mind having fun, having a joke and a laugh about anything. But small talk about what he said to that, gossip, and talking about what's that politics and what some football team did. It's like, I don't care. It's like, I've just no time for it at all. It's like, what is the purpose of it? And in a lot of social environments, you get that. And it's just, I just can't stand it anymore. It never used to be as big a problem. It's like where I work, I work with quite a lot of people, and work with different people at different days, and it's a massive spiritual challenge for me quite often on how I deal with it. And basically what I do is I always change the subject immediately. I'll say, I know where this is going. You're going to bore me with your crap, and I'm not interested. And I will just go out of my way to change the subject, because you can spot it straight away. I mean, if you want to rattle on about politics and something that you can't change, then fair enough. But it's certainly not for me. It's funny. Like I said, on the rare occasions I go into the bar, there'll always be someone there that will bore you with their nonsense, but you're not going to find the most conscious people most of the time in drinking environments. But like I said, in your place of work, in any social situations, you will always get people will suck the soul out of you. That's why they're called vampires, energy vampires. People will suck the soul out of you if you give them the opportunity. There will be people that will take advantage of your good nature, and it is and don't let them do it. It is a form of attack. It's like, I feel like going on like some kind of personal crusade to get rid of these type of people, which might not necessarily be a bad idea. When I say get rid, you know what I mean. So yeah, that was just something that was in my mind, because it me and my friend, we had a bit of a laugh about it in the end. It was quite funny as we were kind of walking, when we were taking the mick out of his accent, but it was just quite it brought to the surface something I already knew. But like a few years ago, I would have dealt with that situation differently. I'd probably let him go on at me all night, and my night would have been ruined. And I certainly wasn't going to let that happen. And it's like, you have to be brave. It's like, when I do go out in the situations where people are going to do that, I will stand away from them. Like when that person I know is in the bar sometimes, I won't go stand with him, and I can see him looking over thinking, why is he not coming over? And he might develop a thought form in his head that says I'm rude, or he'll probably go home and talk to his missus and go, fuck, Andy didn't speak to me all night. You know what? I've really noticed he's not quite the person I thought he was. And they'll probably talk to somebody else, and then they'll gossip about me, but I don't care. And nor should you. People will always make their own minds up about things. You can't do anything about it. Take ownership for your own state of consciousness, and do not let somebody else drain yours, ever. So I'm going to leave it there. I really hope that you've enjoyed it. Could you do me a favour? I'm not giving up on this channel. Just like and subscribe if you haven't already. I don't think most people listening to this already have, but if you can try and share anything as well to get more subs, I'd really appreciate that. And just comment if you've enjoyed it. Let me know. If you've not, let me know. Cheers, and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye.